Puts it on top and hits it nice with the dagger three.
Gold medalist and Olympic champion from Europe.
All eyes are on the PVL Reinforced Preliminaries, and the Chery Tiggo EV crossovers are hungry for a breakthrough. Now joining us to give the latest on their squad are Pauline Gaston, Cess Robles, and reinforcement Yunieska, Robles, Batista. Ladies, thank you for joining us on starting lineup. Pauline, welcome back on the other side this time to talk about their PVL stint here in the Reinforced. Uni, welcome to the Philippines.
Thank you.
I know you've been here for more than a month now. Can you tell us about your experience? You know, you were here during the World Championship of the men, so talk about that experience of being able to catch that and then now playing for Chery Tiggo EV crossovers.
Yeah, when I come over here and I knew that there was world competition here, I realized that how Philippines, they love volleyball. I just
Crazy about volleyball.
Crazy about volleyball. So I have the moment to enjoy this, and then I feel fast like in home. The team made me feel immediately welcome. So I feel it from the first moment in home.
Pauline, actually, I was talking to Uni kanina. Sabi niya, favorite teammate that makes her laugh is actually you. What was your first impression when Uni came in for her first couple of practices?
I said, wow, she's so beautiful. Wow. So sexy, so tall. Yeah, I was really happy that Uni joined us, and I was really looking forward to making her feel welcome. That's the first thing I asked her, like what she's looking forward to, what does she need from us. That's actually what we did as a team. We brought her gifts right away from idea from our management and our team captain, Abby Maranyo. So it was really like we want to make her feel like she's already been here for a long time, even if it was like our first time meeting her.
We'll ask you about those gifts later.
Yeah.
And your bonding moments with
They
the
give
team.
me
But
food.
yeah,
They want to feed me. I was looking
for
skin, they want to feed me.
You have the best food here in the Philippines. Cess, let's talk about muna yung tournaments niyo prior to the Reinforced Conference. You guys had a final stint, no on tour and then invitational. You finished fourth. May mga players kayo na hindi naglaro nun during that time, but now that you're in full strength, tell us about that tournament muna prior to the Reinforced. How was that experience building your chemistry more? Kasi I'm sure you guys were challenged, but at the same time, you made it to the finals after the bubble.
Last conference is very hard talaga yung training namin. Ang pinagdaanan namin is hindi siya madali. So kami, we build talaga yung connection. Yun yung pinaka-importante sa amin. Yun yung sinabi sa amin ni Coach Norman. Which is, nadala naman namin ngayon na kailangan namin hatakin si Ate Yuni sa na-build namin na connection.
Pero iba rin yung laro mo ng on-tour eh. We saw how powerful you were in that tournament and the on-tour. Meron ka bang mga ginawa na kakaiba in preparation for that tournament?
Sa akin naman siguro maging okay lang ako. Condition ako, yung mental ko okay, maglaro lang ako kung anong yung role ko. Yun lang yung nasa isip ko palagi.
Yeah. Pauline, I saw you guys so emotional when you guys entered the finals dun sa on tour. For you guys, for you personally, what did it mean that you got to experience that championship caliber experience for the PVL? Kasi parang grabe yung emotions nyo nung game na yun heading into the finals.
I think it's an addicting feeling. Yung parang, I don't want to experience this just one time. You know, hopefully, we can experience that again in many more conferences. Hopefully, with our reinforcement, you know, and also with the returning players, like we have Ate Maylene coming back. And, you know, even if they were part of the training pool pa, they weren't fully suited up, they were still part of our journey. And, diba, whether you were part of the first six or the second six, it was really a whole like family journey na ginawa namin from the management, from the coaching staff. Mahirap talaga yung pinagdaanan namin. And now we're experiencing that again from baby steps, and then hopefully with our help and, you know, also vice versa, we'll also help her and she'll help us, and hopefully we get to that goal again.
Yeah, I'm sure that feeling was a different high nung nando kayo sa championship, that you know you still have more games to play in the Reinforced. Let's talk about this experience, Uni, being able to play against other reinforcements talk about the experience because you've played in other countries as well, di ba? Nabanggit ni Jaime. Saan mga
Israel, Turkey, Korea.
Yeah, Turkey, Korea.
Korea, Poland,
Yeah, of course.
Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Russia.
Exactly. And then you played for the Kazakhstan national team,
Yeah.
coming from Cuba. So all those experiences. Now that you're in the Philippines, what can you say about playing in the PVL, and what are the things that surprised you about the volleyball here in the country?
I love the passion that every players put here. I see in every ball they put their heart, even that they are not that taller or that faster or the east jumper. I love how they fight. I see in the Philippines volleyball is about the fight, it's about the heart, and this is what I like from here.
Yeah.
How is Philippine volleyball different? Because you played in so many different styles, right? Korea, Kazakhstan, all the other countries. But
Yeah.
how is Filipinos, the way they play volleyball, how is it different for you?
Yeah, because you've played against Filipinos
Yeah.
before, but now you're playing with
With
them.
the Filipino. I think the difference that they play quick. They play quick volleyball. They never give up.
Yeah.
They fight for every ball, and it's different. And I learn here also. Every place where I go, I learn something new, and I love what I see for now.
Yeah, Pauline, let's talk about the matches so far. You've had 3 games in the Reinforced Conference against Zeus Coffee in a 4-setter, Akari 5 sets, and then Petrogas also in 4 sets sa Ilagan. So siguro pag-usapan natin yung pinakahuli dahil bumiyahe kayo, talk about that match and also the fan experience as always. It was her first time being out of town dito sa Pilipinas. How was that match over the weekend?
It was really fun. For me, I can't speak for them, but Uni was next to me in the meet and greet. Did you have fun?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was fun. I know you saw my stories, but we also featured Dim Dim Pakres. It was actually like outside the court. All the teams got together. Like we had dinners together and the meet and greet together. So it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
Our hotel was shared with also another team. So coming into the game naman, syempre it's a whole different story. Syempre magkalaban na tayo. And I think for us, a learning experience for us was really to really work on getting our connection together. Like, it's really hard to build that in a span of a month.
Yeah.
You know, like most teams have developed that because they've been training for more than 2-3 years together. So us, we have to find a way to make all the players who have just come in, coming from injury, coming from
Correct.
another country, how are we gonna make all those sparks and all those connections in a short amount of time? You know, because sometimes what we train is entirely different from what comes out in the game. So it's also the coaches trying to figure that out. And it's hard because they're gonna look at body language or how they warm up, who are we gonna put in and who's gonna perform. So I think we just have to figure that out all together.
Cess, ang ganda nga sinabi ni Pauline, figuring it out. Because yes, you guys are 0-3, but you can still turn it around. There's still a preliminary round 2, and we've seen teams just suddenly get momentum. But to get that momentum para sa Cess, ano yung pinakakailangan yung magawa coming into that round 2 and finishing round 1 strong?
I think sa training lang, dapat yung connection nandun na kaagad. Kasi yun nga, sabi ni Ate Pauline, iba yung nalalabas sa laro kaysa sa training. So, dapat sa training pa lang, pulido kami. Para pagdating sa laro, hindi kami yung like natataranta, nawawala bigla yung connection namin sa isang error lang. Yun lang, sa training lang. Doon lahat magsimula.
Starts with training. And then pagdating sa game, ano yung parang, siguro nakapag-review na rin kayo sa film, mga previous games, ano yung parang na-notice mo rin na maybe this aspect, may particular department ba that you think should be improved for the next games? Especially this Thursday, di ba, yung next match ninyo?
I think errors lang. Like,
okay.
pag one error na hindi naman sadya, like hindi naman gusto ng tao na mag-error, di ba? But sa isang error lang na like hindi naman ganon kaganda, di ba? Nawawala siya, nawawala kami. So, kailangan may isang mag-top sa amin. Siguro yun lang yung gusto kong,
yan, ganyan, kagaya niyan.
Gusto,
She said maybe if we're getting lost, we just need like a tap. So we don't lose confidence, we don't lose the connection.
And yun yung gusto namin i-build sa next na game namin. And yung kami mismo anim naglalaro sa loob.
Uni, one last question for you. I mean, you are yearning. You want that first win right here in the Philippines. You're still waiting for that first win. But what do you want to see from the Chery Tiggo EV crossovers to get that first win? That one thing you still want to see in the upcoming games?
I think we will achieve the win.
Yeah.
It's baby step. We're gonna go there. Just I think that Chery Tiggo never will give up, and we still fight together.
Yeah. And they need to give you more gifts, more food, right?
Yeah.
They
That's
give me a lot of food.
important. All right, Uni, Pauline, Cess, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We learned a lot about you, Uni, and we wish you the best of luck in
Thanks.
your matchup on Thursday. So
Thank
good
you.
luck with the rest of your PVL
Thank
Reinforced Conference.
Good luck,
Thank
girls. And now we shift to UAAP basketball when we return here. Stay tuned. You're watching Starting Lineup. Welcome back to Starting Lineup. We've got one more game day to wrap up around one of UAAP women's basketball. And we're joined by UAAP legend Camille Clarin to break down the top storylines for round one.
Woo!
Hello, CC. First of all, we'd like to congratulate you for having covered
Yes.
a men's
Yeah.
basketball game along with multiple women's game. But we're going to talk about women's first because
Yes.
your former rivals, UST, are still undefeated. And you said here, you feel like they're going to be still unbeatable in round two. What is the main ingredient for UST in season 88 so far?
Loss gives you another kind of motivation that nothing else can give you. I think that's what's really fueling their run right now. Okay, let's correct that though. My take is that until the end of round one, they'll be undefeated.
I
you
know, because last time.
Yeah, and also their bench depth.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They have players who can score on every kind of level. You have rookies who haven't even gotten their time to shine yet. So with UST, they're really deep, and I think that's what's giving a lot of teams hard times because even if their superstars are not doing well, there's always someone to pick up.
Yeah. So you're talking about the loss coming from last season's championship, right? But until round one, they could be unbeaten. In round two, what do you think? We've seen a couple of teams get close to them in round number one. Ateneo, for example, they were right there. And then round two might be a different story, right?
Yeah, I think in round two, everything changes. Everybody makes adjustments and the pressure ramps up because, you know, you're moving into playoffs. You're moving into that era where, you know, you want to feel challenged, right? If you're always winning, that's what we struggled with at NU.
Yeah.
You're always winning, and then come playoffs, you're like, you lose second game, and then you're a little flustered. But I think with UST, they're doing a really good job at being dominant and not letting back. Like, that's what's hard about them. It's no matter who they're against, it's the same kind of intensity.
And their rivals, the NU Lady Bulldogs, now are at 5-1. Now for NU, I remember the last time when CC was here, she said Christine Cayabyab needs to step up. And yes, she has, although sometimes still inconsistent versus, let's say, Ateneo. But for NU, to try to make sure that there's no step ladder, I'm sure that's the goal. What do they have to do differently here in round number two for players like Christine Cayabyab and Angel Sorada?
They just need to stay in the game. I think Angel struggles a lot with the fouls. That's what I've noticed with her this year. And I think if you have so many players who are capable of scoring and capable of making an impact as a point guard, sometimes it's hard to delegate who's going to take over which game.
Yeah.
But I think Aloha, that's her job now. You're the point guard. You're running the system on the floor. You see things your coach doesn't see. So how are you going to get everybody involved to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody's happy? Because, you know, people are okay with taking a step back as long as they're still involved in some way. Get the ball moving. And I think in those games where they came close, especially like that game against Ateneo, they need to not play with their food. What happens sometimes is that they have the lead and then they relax.
Yeah.
It's a different game now. You know, a lot of teams are super competitive, so
Right.
you can't do that anymore.
Right. I know you cover all the teams now in women's, but I know you're also particularly observant on your former team, right? Because you know
Yes,
how
of
they play.
course,
So
of
let's see
course.
how they will do in the last game of round number one. Let's move forward to another team in the women's basketball tournament for the Ateneo Blue Eagles. The MVP 2 times now, and you said she might be a 3-time MVP, but because of Casey De La Rosa, the Ateneo Blue Eagles are legitimate contenders. They could make it back to the Final Four and maybe make a push for the finals.
Yeah, I think Casey the Gilas experience that she had really did well for her. I think she was able to unlock another level of leadership. And that's not necessarily just being dominant on the offensive or defensive side. It's that delegation to her teammates, that trust that she's able to give to make sure that, for example, in that game against UST, she was out of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, she didn't contribute her usual numbers, but that's what's making Ateneo a real contender this year, is because even if you take Casey away, they're still effective.
Yeah.
Before, that's the solution to Ateneo. Take her away and then everything else crumbles.
Yeah.
But now they're really holding their ground, and I'm super impressed with what they've done. I think that really goes to show that they've built a good connection this year, so I'm excited. They definitely have a push for
I want to go
finals.
more specific on that thought because now they're beating the no bench allegations. That was the joke, right? Ateneo,
Yeah.
no bench, but now players like Gracie Batong Bakal, Kate Cancho, and even Millie Malagar and Kai Owani, they have stepped up, they have made their threes. Let's go more particularly on them. How have they impressed you? How have they really helped Ateneo be in contention here in the Final Four?
You know, with Casey, because she's so dominant, sometimes it's frustrating if you're with her and you don't get to touch the ball as much. But I think even her ability to just move the ball a lot now, but the thing is her teammates are completing the play. You know, she could pass all she wants, but if their teammates are not completing the play, you don't want to pass to them on the next one, right? So I think that trust also goes into the work that they've been putting in. You know, they're bearing fruit, and I think because there's a lot more people to look for from Casey's end, you know, they're doing well. They have a complete team almost.
Right, so we talked about some contenders. Let's talk about the dark horse this time. Maybe you could mention one or two teams that you think could also make it into the Final Four if they make some improvements, especially to end round number 1. They could bring that towards round number 2.
Yeah, for sure we have like the teams like FEU, UP, Adamson. Those are the teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack. And I think what's been keeping them there is that they're not necessarily playing to their identity. So we have teams like Adamson, who runs the ball really well and has very little turnovers. Ever since I played against them, they average like less than 10 turnovers a game, which is impressive on the women's side. And I think that they need to come back to those basics, because a lot of times those teams who are in the middle of the pack, they let the other teams dictate their pace, or they play to the pace of their opponents. So if you're those teams, do what you do well. UP, for example, they're so good at full court pressure.
Yeah.
They're a great trapping team, great defensive team. But sometimes you're seeing them employ that super late in the game. They're not necessarily starting off with that. So I'd like to see kind of those adjustments, like going back to the basics and going back to what you're good at.
Yeah. So we have one final game day for round 1 for the women's basketball tournament this Wednesday in 2 separate venues, I believe. Diba? Meron sa MOA, meron sa Araneta Coliseum. So be sure to watch that and see how it unfolds for the end of round 1. But CC, we talked about women's. You'll stay for men's because you covered already a game. We'll talk more about it when we return. More UAAP basketball when we come back. Keep it here on Starting Lineup. Welcome back to Starting Lineup. We're still joined by basketball analyst Camille Clarin as we look ahead to the opening matchups of round 2 in UAAP men's basketball. CC, let's talk men's basketball this time. Round 2 agad.
Yeah.
This Wednesday, kasabay ng end ng round 1 of the women's. But first things first, Ateneo versus FEU. How we started season 88, which you covered, by the way, that went into overtime. Let's do a recap of what happened in that game. So Ateneo escaping with a win by 3 points over FEU. And that's when we saw the one and dones impress the fans of UAAP for the first time. Kay Manila, di Dom Escobar doing the damage in that game. Are they the same guys who will see the same number of points in the second round matchup?
You should, because I think now, you know, they had a super strong start. They kind of fell off towards the last couple of games, but that's the pressure that comes with UAAP, right? You're one and done. There's a lot relying on you, and I think, you know, they got that out of the way. They got those nerves out of the way. So you want to see those numbers pick up again, and especially because they're the reasons why they won a lot of those games at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, Dep, I did cover that first game, which is why it's interesting, CC, that the matchup you're looking forward most is Kirby Moncopa and Sean Tuano. Interestingly, in the first game, those two were quite absent. Didn't really get much scoring. But why these two as two players to watch out for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think not necessarily the matchup, but them as individuals, because Kirby, he's a very silent player. I don't think his impact is very loud, but it's felt by a lot of the team. I think he's going to have to nullify kind of those big guards on offense and on defense. He produces well, so I think that if FEU, a team who's very reliant on their guards, right? You have Batista, you have Pasaol, you have two players who are always carrying the load. Like, you want to see their big men and their fours kind of get into the mix.
Because Pasaol, he had a triple-double in that game against Ateneo, 24 points.
Yeah, you can't ask him to do so
Exactly.
much more,
Jorik
right?
Bautista also scored 24 points. So, granted that they will perform and carry the load for FEU. So you're thinking Kirby Moncopa will be that X factor for FEU. But how about the momentum though of FEU winning their final game in round 1, now carrying that against a team, Ateneo, who has lost their last 2 after winning 4 straight?
Yeah, I think the momentum is kind of reversed for them, right? You have Ateneo, who's tied at 3rd right now, and if you're going up against a team like FEU, it seems like it's a must-win because you still have other teams to face like UP, NU, LaSalle, UST, right? So you gotta take yourself out of that losing mentality. Round 1 is over. Round 2 is another story. It's another beast because everyone has made their adjustments. So if you're Ateneo, take what you learned from the first round, apply it to the second. Don't have that losing mentality. See what you can do better. And then on the side of FEU, you want to not let your the mentality be, oh, one possession, it's sayang, right? You're in there already. Find a leader who can carry you through those games because you have possessions that are winnable, right? You have games that are coming down to last baskets, right? So it's more like who's gonna step up in a way that carries not only the whole team, right, but carries you into a win.
Yeah. Tomorrow we'll see if Jared Bahay, Divine Adili will be back for Ateneo. But we have another big game tomorrow. Number 1 NU Bulldogs will be facing the only team that they've lost to in round number 1. If you're the NU Bulldogs, what becomes the mentality? We're gonna face this team, the only one that beat us in round number 1.
This is your time to put all the accusations aside that you're a first round team. Every season before, they tank in the second round, right? Great start, doing so well, and then all of a sudden, don't make the adjustments and you fall off on the second round. This is your chance. This is the only team that beat you in the first round. So if there's a chance to make it known that you know how to make adjustments and you're a much more mature team, this is the chance to do it.
And you actually led the start of that game against UP. But Jake Figueroa did not have the best outing.
Yeah.
It was limited to single digits in that matchup against
Right, and
UP.
that's not something we've seen from him in the season, right? For sure, you can't expect him to. He averages 15 points right now. He's on the top of the statistical points, but that's your role in NU right now. You are the go-to guy. Yeah. So for him, this is a chance for him to also show up again, right? You had an off game, but make sure it's just an off game, right? It's just a one-off because they're going to rely on him heavily throughout the entire second round. And this is a great way to get that momentum, get a good start. Yeah.
And players you said we must watch out for, key players for tomorrow. I like this. 2 of the toughest, probably, defensive guys in the UAAP. Jolo Manansala and Jacob Baila. How big are these two for a big game like tomorrow?
So those 2 I picked because they are 2 players who you thought would have had more showings in the first round. I think they've been a little bit quiet, and that 4 spot is something that you really need to watch out for, right? You know, Baila and Jolo are great defenders, but what more is there to your game, especially in a matchup that's a must-win for either side, right? I want to see them impact on the offensive side, take the load off of the people who are their go-to scorers, right? Because they've shown in seasons past that they can really impact on the offensive side. So with UP and with NU, they're both very hustle-forward teams. The effort is really there. So those 2 players can really set the tone for that.
Yeah, what about for UP though? Because we know NU coming off that win against Ateneo to end round 1 with only 1 loss. But UP, with that close game against LaSalle, where do they stand right now in terms of going up against NU again? Because when they faced NU that time, they were kind of building on their wins, but this time they're coming off another loss.
Yeah, it's difficult when you're coming off a loss, especially one that it was against. It's like a rematch of the finals, right? But they're not anywhere far from their goal. The goal is still to make it into the playoffs, and they're there.
Yeah.
So if you're UP, do what you do best. It's those empty possessions where nothing's going on, and it's just the pure effort, right, to finish those possessions. I think UP has a lot of guys that they can go to, but in their last matchup against NU, it was the points in the paint that really contributed to their win. So if you're the guards of UP, you guys know you can score. There's no problem about that. But how are you going to get the bigs involved, who do so much on the defensive end to stop the other guys on NU, right? You want to also feed them and give them that opportunity on offense.
Yeah, well, we're ready to find out for the start of round 2 for men's basketball. CC, as always, thank you for breaking down the game for us. And looking forward to when you'll cover the next men's basketball game.
Thank you again, Cici. And thank you guys for joining us once again. I'm Jaime Escalon.
And I'm Dip Dipianco, and this is Starting Lineup.